Okay, here we are. This is podcast number 29. I'm very excited to welcome back to the show my baby sisters. Here's Ziya.
Yo.
And Aramie. Hi. You guys are so kooky and crazy. You've provided me with some excellent channel content with the help of the folks at Jackbox Games.
Debatable, but okay.
And, there's an episode this week and all. We owe to our cousin Talia during the recording of some Jackbox Games last night. My microphone's cord just broke. So none of last night's recorded gameplay was salvageable as a video, I checked, unfortunately.
Man.
While I was ordering a replacement cord on Amazon, Talia fiddled with it and repaired it. So, having a severely autistic brother who's always wrecking things has given her a knack for fixing electronics, it seems. So, the podcast is being recorded this evening as scheduled.
Woohoo!
So, what's been going on in your lives, girls? Tell me of your achievements and interests.
School bad. Besides that, I've been drawing recently, since summer's been rolling around.
Cool.
I've been eating a lot.
Me too, kid.
And my name in Jackbox has been bucket soup and a lot more.
Yes.
Oh, and this pillow's fluffy.
Yes, you are on a very fluffy pillow.
Only the priorities here.
Yep. All right, so for the Team Salmon segment, I'm going to have Aramie and Ziya spontaneously audition for the roles of Ari and Ziya. Aramie, sing something.
No, that's not me.
What do I sing?
Something.
Something.
Sing Shape of You by Ed Sheeran.
What?
You don't know that one?
You're scaring her. She has stage fright. She absolutely knows that song.
No, I don't want to sing it. Give me a terrible song.
What Makes You Beautiful by One Direction?
No.
You said terrible.
Remember we just answered this question
Not
earlier.
embarrassing, like Rick Roll or something.
Okay, yes. Sing Never Gonna Give You Up. Yeah.
Never gonna give you up. Never gonna let you down.
You're so cute.
Never gonna live around to hurt you. Is that enough?
Sure, that's enough. Okay, we are being joined by our cousin Kharis. Seems we can't get away from her.
Khakis!
I'm kidding, I don't want to get away from her. She
I
and
do.
Aramie, we're inseparable, it seems. So yeah, we're doing...
They have like the same brain.
Yeah.
My conjoined twins.
Yeah.
I don't think that's like the exact opposite of conjoined twins.
Ow. Never gonna
Yeah.
give you.
She's eating a bagel.
Yep, okay.
Is there ketchup in that bagel?
No.
Okay, good.
Jelly.
Okay, thank God. Okay. I was
ham.
concerned for a second.
That was
Jelly.
Okay.
This is a bouncy pillow.
So, alright, good audition. Okay, this would normally be the Droon segment, but I think I'm going to spare my guests from having to sit here listening to me summarizing a Droon book. So this week I'm going to introduce a brand new segment where I reread my own old fan fiction. Whose idea was that?
I don't like...
What's that? It was
Oh.
mine? Okay. Alright,
Oh, boy.
See, last month marked 10 years that I've had my current account on fanfiction.net, and I had a different account before that. So I have a rich and storied fanfiction career. Under the assumption that I can learn a lot from the horrible things I've written in the past, I'm going to be rereading every fanfic on the account. I'm already, my stomach's already turning a little bit at the prospect.
Woo! Cringe!
I'm sure it'll make me projectile vomit to see what I wrote back in high school and college and even last year, but I'm searching...
Me too.
I'm
Me
searching
too.
for gold nuggets, stuff I may have forgotten about that can be reapplied to my original stories. So I started writing fan fiction for Cars at the age of 13 under the pen name Super Lobster Boy. When I was 19, I deleted all the stories off that account, which I regret now. I believe now in keeping old, embarrassing works for the historical record. Then
I wish I had your strength.
Mm-hmm.
I can't keep something for like 15 minutes without deleting it.
Yeah, I still have those moments, but you know, if I put it out there, I keep it out there.
You too, please. Maturity.
Please.
then-
Shut up.
10 years ago, as a very depressed and lonely high schooler, I discovered 3 things that revitalized my entire life, leading me eventually to create Iris and Some Sweet Kind of Vampire, but first, to return to the fanfiction world under the pen name Super Super Bad Truly Mad Moves. And the first of those things that rejuvenated me was Monsters vs. Aliens for some reason. Anybody remember Monsters vs. Aliens?
Yeah.
No.
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
You couldn't make me forget.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah.
It's bad in a
There's a
wonderful
guy
way.
that looked like blue Kool-Aid put into like
Yeah.
a ghost.
Yeah, Bob, yeah.
Bob.
Love!
Let me talk about my method of writing stories. Basically, I take the characters and the setting, and I go, wouldn't it be cool if this happened? And then this happened, and then this. And if a plot happens to arise from that eventually, so much the better. So with my fanfiction writing, that's how they begin. I take the characters last time we saw them in canon, and I kind of continue the story from there, but more is stuff happening than an actual story. At
Wait
least,
a minute.
At least
wait,
at
wait,
first.
Is that what a fanfic is?
When I write one, yes.
Okay. What are most of them like?
Most of them are like, when Natty writes a fanfic, she usually retells the canon story, but with another character in there somewhere. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Like, so, the first fanfic of my new account was called The Good Life, and it was a Monsters vs. Aliens fanfic that ended up running only 5 chapters for reasons that will become clear after I've recapped it.
Okay.
The premise is that after the events of the film, the 5 monsters are made free U.S. citizens and given a huge mansion on the outskirts of Modesto. I know there was a Monsters vs. Aliens TV series.
I gotta go pee.
I don't know what its premise was or where their base of operations was. I don't really care about the Monsters vs. Aliens TV series. But anyway.
I'm going pee.
Okay. Well, if she wants to know how this begins, she'll have to listen to the podcast. Okay, in Chapter 1, The Mansion, it's established where the monsters are living now. I established that their giant television set is equipped with surround sound, Wii, Blu-ray, Apple TV. Yeah, 10 years ago, we had just added all that to our TV set at home. It was really mind-blowing, and yeah, the chapter is mostly about the monsters playing Wii Sports and how they've modified their Wii so Susan and Insectosaurus can play it properly despite their massively different scale. The giant monster snail who was mentioned at the end of the film is incorporated. To get him out of the story, they just shrink him down and eat him.
Oh.
And yeah, so far this is really painful to read. And Chapter 2 is DVD rental, where the 3 human-scale monsters are at a video store because 10 years ago, remember video stores? And they all want to rent the movie that they're based on, The Fly, The Blob, The Creature from the Black Lagoon, and how very clever and not at all obvious. And they talk about what movie monsters they could take in a fight. It's not remotely entertaining. I get in a couple of good one-liners from Bob, but mostly, yeah, it's pointless references.
Bob is Bob. That's why.
Bob, yeah. Yeah, it was pretty fun, looking back, to come up with the fun one-liners from Bob. Yeah. So chapter 3 is called D&D. The premise of the chapter, Link and Insectosaurus have gotten themselves a set of 3rd edition Dungeons & Dragons material. They mentioned that they used to play it back in the monster prison until they got carried away in the 90s and their privileges were revoked. Stats and miniatures have been created to honor the 5 of them. I think this is the first mention of the term Modesto Monsters, which is what the group is called in this particular continuity. The 4 original monsters come up with characters, and Susan goes to study the player's handbook so she can make an informed decision. There's a couple of jabs at 4th edition, which was very hypocritical of me, because at the time I adored 4th edition. 5th didn't exist, and I was just being very bandwagony by claiming to hate 4th edition. So chapter 4 is many times longer than any of the previous chapters, and it's called Party. 2 words, party. And it starts with the monsters going over a guest list for their Thanksgiving party, which consists of basically every named character that Monsters vs. Aliens had, including, the really unforgivable ones that you'd think the protagonists wouldn't invite to a party, like Derek and Galaxar. It's mentioned that Galaxar is in the prison that used to hold the monsters, and that he's barely alive, which I guess comes back later, but never becomes important. There's a bit I'd completely forgotten about. Maybe I'd intended to develop it, but then just didn't when the story changed direction. Because, yeah, I didn't remember it at all when I read it. They have a busty French maid who Link insists on calling Marie Claire, even though her name is Lynn. So the party happens, and nearly every character from Monsters vs. Aliens shows up. The president doesn't, because I guess I had some common sense about what kind of events the president of the United States was able to attend. And Galaxar doesn't, but other than that, everyone does, and I characterized them really, really badly. And Derek is forgiven, but not really allowed back into Susan's life. Everybody goes around the table saying what they're thankful for. After that, Susan laments maybe not being able to find love again, being as huge as she is. The text is littered with what I'm assuming are direct pot shots at people who write Monsters vs. Aliens fanfic where Susan is able to shrink back down to human size. I do think that would be a pretty cheap plot device, cheapen the character. And I think it actually happens in the TV series. I'm not sure. Anyway.
Lame. Let her be big.
Yeah.
She a big girl.
Yeah. Anyway, Dr. Cockroach lets slip that he's in love with Susan, and she admits that though she's never thought of him that way, she does love him, so she thinks they should give that a try. That was kind of good. You know, every fandom has its ships, and it's usually Susan Dr. Cockroach, because he's the only one of the monsters who used to be human as well. And I'm noticing that the story has a lot of moments where someone makes a quip at someone's expense and gets punched out as a result. Was that a running gag, or was I just really bad at coming up with reactions to quips? And then the final chapter, Chapter 5, is called Monsters vs. Vampires. What I had originally intended to be a throwaway joke became the focal point of the entire story going forward. General Monger brings in the monsters to talk to them about vampires, to see if the monsters can prove that such creatures exist. He has intelligence that evidence of vampire existence may be found on a small island off the coast of Brazil, and so the monsters head straight there, and there the story ends, so that I could start a sequel in which Monsters vs. Aliens crosses over with one of the other two things I discovered that year, that thing being Twilight.
Oh no.
Hey, I was 16, I just had my heart stomped on, I was incredibly depressed, the film version of Twilight had just come out, so I read the books, and
You're valid.
and I related to them, and it lasted like 6 months, but during that 6 months, since I didn't really do much homework back then, I wrote a rather extensive Twilight and Monsters vs. Aliens crossover fanfic, so we'll get into recapping that next week.
God.
Yeah. First thoughts on having reread a 10-year-old fanfic? My god, that was painful. I hope I can survive the experience of rereading the entire crossover saga.
I'm sad I won't get to be there for more of this, because this was hilarious and painful.
You can always listen to my podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Fair
and,
enough.
It's on.
It's on YouTube. Tapas and
What's
Stuff.
it called?
It's called the Tapas and Stuff Productions podcast.
TAPS.
Yeah, it's all over my Facebook page. You'll find it.
I don't have Facebook.
Well,
She's 10!
yeah, well, ask Mom to check. Okay. Anyway, yeah, this is episode 29, and so yes, from here on, I will be talking about my old fanfics in a segment. And
Yay.
okay, finally, Keys and Kingdoms. This week I just want to talk about my thoughts on how Keys and Kingdoms is progressing as a project thus far, mainly in regards to writing the series called The Choices. Now, the intent of K&K was always D&D meets Disney, and in practice so far, the Disney half isn't getting much emphasis as far as the writing of The Choices goes. It's basically just a D&D story in an original campaign setting with musical numbers, and Aramie and Kharis are at this point ignoring me to mess around with the elliptical thing.
A treadmill.
So, but
That's not a treadmill.
it's an elliptical. Yeah, but
An electrical thing.
Anyway, you two stop goofing
Yeah.
around.
So, what I gotta remember is that every country in Cosmos is based on a part of the real world, and I have to load that country with imagery reminiscent of that country's depiction in Disney and other traditional animation. Iconic imagery like Winnie the Pooh's ceramic honeypots. You know, gotta bring that out, that kind of set design. But maybe, I've been thinking, maybe Cosmos just isn't one of the more Disney-esque settings. Disney owns Marvel Comics, and where's Marvel Comics set? The multiverse. Dungeons & Dragons has Planescape, and where's Planescape set? The multiverse. Maybe the science fiction elements, like aliens and robots, are exceptionally rare in Cosmos' dimension, but plentiful in some other universe somewhere. Maybe from Cosmos you can get to Crystals, the fantasy world I created long ago, or to Nanius, the setting of the Dungeons & Dragons campaign I'm running right now, or one of the many RPGs with ponies in them. I don't know. Keys and Kingdoms absolutely has a multiverse. I've just got to remember that. As Walt Disney used to say, it all started with a mouse. So yeah, future me, file all that under canon. So, girls, any final thoughts for today to talk to our listeners about?
What's the audition for?
This is
Well,
for
look-
messing with you.
Well, I
Well,
was...
then you should do an audition.
Okay.
No!
Yes.
Okay, I
Get
was...
your feet off me.
Okay, I was...
Your arms are.
I was messing with you, but,
Your feet are cold.
these...
Oh my god.
But yeah, the Keys and Kingdoms characters I made, they will be starring
Wait,
in...
can I see what they look like?
Again? Yeah. This one? Okay.
Aerie, yes,
Yeah, Aerie and Ziya.
Oof. I'm sorry, I just can't hear that without.
I get how that would be a trigger phrase. I'm sorry. It was just it's spelled differently. It's Zaya. If that helps. I don't know.
Wait,
But
what? Is
okay, yeah.
Zaya?
Zaya.
Zaya?
Zaya. Zaya.
So
Zaya. She looks like Zaya.
So yeah, these characters they're starring in a project. You know, I've scripted it, and my friends and I are going to work on storyboarding it. And I hope that you two will voice the characters. You know,
Certainly.
Yeah, whenever I
Okay,
do it
I will.
later. That not like that, please.
Maximum cursed effect.
She's like, of course I will.
Yeah, so yeah, later this year I will be doing a number of projects. There's this, and also my fan dub of Phoebe and her unicorn. So hope to hear your voices in that.
Woohoo!
All right. This week's Disney film is The Watcher in the Woods, but I'm gonna save that for next week. For now.
The Wizard of Oz. I'm just throwing them off. Don't worry.
All right.
It's The Watcher in the Woods, not The Wizard of Oz. But
Ignore the weirdos.
yeah, I'm gonna save that for next week. For now, we're gonna watch. I decided we're gonna watch the film from my collection that my sisters wanted to watch, and they both voted Alice in Wonderland. So we're gonna go watch that.
Wizard.
Ciao. I yelled that angrily because she started singing The Wizard of Oz again. Okay. So, ciao, everybody.
Bye bye.